Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out. Pleasure to be in the company once again of Gareth A. Davies, albeit over the internet and Zoom. Gareth, we were in the midst of the aftermath of Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn 2, where it was revenge for Conor Benn and nearly went that little bit extra in securing a knockout, but was just the bell eluded him from getting that. What was your read on the fight from last night, Gareth?
Um, it was a resounding A star for Conor Benn last night. Brilliant performance, timing, snap, great shape, kept to the game plan, strategically great, went for the kill at the end, as you say, didn't quite get it. For me, it was 118, 108 score on my card, 10 rounds to 2, and a 10-7 last round. I thought he was magnificent. He wasn't distracted at all. He didn't overreach. He didn't over egg the pudding. He kept a strong game plan all the way throughout, as he had all week. And I saw you pretty much every day last week, and we discussed this at length over food, over Nando's, if we're allowed to say that on air, over fizzy water. We didn't have a drink. Day after day last week is a really long fight week. He kept his emotions in check all through fight week and in the fight. On the other side of the ring, Chris Eubank Jr. probably gets a C minus for the performance. You could say he's shot. You could say he's an aged fighter. We have that expression in boxing that sometimes fighters age overnight. You could argue that about him in this one. You could also argue, given he's just suggesting, alluding to issues coming into this, he's always got reasons. He's a deep analyst on these things. Probably didn't make the weight very well. Or is that just age at 36 affecting him finally with all these weight cuts and these second day weigh-in clauses and rehydration clauses, which are dangerous in my view, and especially when they're restricted to a certain weight. And I think he may have paid the price because he had no snap. He was sluggish. He was dishevelled by halfway through the fight. Not disinterested. People mistake when we say disinterested. He wasn't disinterested in the fight, but he just could not find anything inside himself to get back at Benn during the fight. He looked a ghost, a shadow of the fighter that was in that ring 7 months ago.
We'll delve into this more precisely in a second, but Gareth, given boxing like you have done for many years, does the Eubank Ben rivalry, or has the Eubank Ben rivalry reached a satisfactory conclusion from what you saw last night, given that it's 1-1, and given also that the fathers seem to have also uh, reignited their feud and seem to be on the same page once again?
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised that Nigel. I understand Nigel's point of view. Chris Senior's a certain way with the poetry and the salutations to Rastafari, and the way he is, and that he doesn't give an inch, and he's his own man. They're very different types of families, very different people, chalk and cheese. Very cool, calm, and calculated, the Eubanks. Very emotional, the Benns. I think Nigel's just had enough, he says, of being around Chris. Like there was a little bit of finger wagging, wasn't there? And a bit of accusation. One of the biggest rows of the week was Eubank Senior not being happy about Nigel Benn saying he'd been paid to come to the first fight. It doesn't make any difference to anyone, frankly. Anyway, to us, it doesn't make a lot of difference. There's nothing wrong with being paid an appearance fee. There's nothing wrong with being there and not being paid a fee for your son or whatever. But I do understand the rivalry. It'll always be there in a way because they're still very competitive people. I don't want to see them in a ring having a rivalry. Don't mind them having a debate on TV or on a chat show or on a boxing show. That's fine. Is it done, to answer the question? I think so at this point. But the whole reason that Chris Eubank Jr. hasn't given all those reasons behind the scenes or retired is because, as a very shrewd businessman, I don't think there's a third fight there right now, a trilogy fight. But as a very shrewd businessman, there may be, if Turkey Al Sheikh says there's another 16 million quid for you guys, because they will do it again if that's the case, in my view. I don't want to see it right now, even though it was one sided, but captivating in the first iteration, and in the sequel, it was very one-sided. Yes, I think it is done. I hope it's done, but you never know in boxing because money speaks.
I like
Can
the
I
back.
just add to that, Eamon, as well?
Yep.
I think if Eubank Jr. has to do that weight cut again, I think it's now becoming dangerous for him. Weight cut and rehydration to 170.
I like the back and forth conversation that you had between yourselves on Talksport in the post fight, the aftermath between yourself, Dave Allen, Spencer Oliver, and Adam Cattrall. But Dave was very forthright as to it being a poor fight and didn't think it was of a high quality, of a high level of the sport. Given the time, the hours separated from the fight, have you been able to watch it back? What do you think about what Dave was putting out there from his read of the fight too?
Well, I know exactly what he said because I was standing next to him. Yeah, he's got he's got his viewpoint, and that's fair enough. But it was still, I found it very compelling. I found it compelling that we were seeing the disintegration of Eubank in front of our eyes. It's not that I'm delighting in what happened to him, but I find it fascinating. It's what we do. We analyze the fights. We with our words and with our written and spoken words and with our assessments. We're looking at reasons now, aren't we? Why we don't want to take anything away from Conor Benn. I thought it was still a very interesting fight, but we just didn't get that comeback from Chris Eubank. He was so different as a person, as a fighter, from that first fight. And that's what led Dave Allen to say he's a shot fighter. It could be the weight cut as well. It could possibly have been the weight cut. So I would give another reason. Do I think he should cut to that weight again? As I said, no. It's getting dangerous. And in the end, someone will suffer as a result. But I want to give praise to Conor Benn because all the things I said just now, he did all the right things and he deserves his victory. Yeah, and without him doing that, Eubank wouldn't have produced the poor performance that he did. Benn didn't let him because Eubank didn't have it in him. It's a shame it wasn't another toe-to-toe war for 67,000 fans, and there was booing, but that's boxing. Sometimes people can't produce.
On Eubank, before we focus on Ben, you're talking about it being another toe-to-toe war off of the back of that performance from Eubank Jr. and his age, he's getting on, and the motivation that he has for the sport in money fights. Does he have more toe-to-toe wars left in him? Does he have a future in the sport? What fights do they look like?
He's got whatever future he wants in the sport. My view is he's made enough money and I think he should walk away now. He won't want to walk away on that performance, unfortunately, because he's a very proud man. But unless it's another 8 million for fighting Conor Benn, I don't see where he earns that kind of money. He's not. Is he going to step into the ring for 1 million now? I doubt it. Where are the fights for him? Does he want to go in and be beaten up by Hamza Shiraz for a couple of million? I doubt it. Because that guy there would get beaten up by Hamza Shiraz, who we saw last night. That guy wouldn't be able to live with the strong fighters in and around middleweight and super middleweight. So, yes, I'd like to see him hang it up. He's 36, 37 next. He's had a long career. He's got tons of money in the bank. The engine doesn't seem there anymore. As I say, a shell of the fighter who was there and strong and withstood all the attacks from Benn in that first fight. I do want to hear his reasons that he was on about and alluding to at the press conference that he didn't want to clarify and he didn't want Ben Shalom to talk about. So it's still a little bit to play out. But from my side, even though he won't want to do this, I think he should hang him up.
On those reasons, Gareth, is there anything you can surmise what they could be that might have hampered his performance? Did you hear
Yeah,
anything as to?
no, but there is the it could have been an injury. The weight coming off could have been a nightmare. He didn't clearly didn't want to forfeit best part of 500,000 to Conor Benn again for breaking the weight restriction to 160. It could have taken so much out of his body to get to that weight that when he did it, the weight's come back on and he hasn't been able to get the right nutrition to be well nourished again afterwards. And his body's just gone haywire on him. You saw him. He didn't have. It wasn't that he didn't want to be there. He had the pride and fitness to be there for 12 rounds while he was trying to find a foothold, trying to feel his way into the fight, trying to get. He couldn't get any hands, couldn't get a snap, he couldn't get his jab off, he couldn't. Benn was just too quick for him. So he never found timing in the fight. He was sluggish all the way through, but he still had the pride to want to get to the end of 12 rounds. You saw him say to the referee in that last round, "How long's left?" Because he didn't want to get stopped on the ground or on his feet. So it's something to do with what his body. He just may have aged overnight. You know that expression in boxing, and he's got old. Will he have one more fight in him? Maybe. But the boxer's the first to know it and last to admit it, as they say. So we shall see. We shall see. He's an enigmatic guy, isn't he? Look at regardless of the injury to Liam Smith, look at the different Chris Eubank that was there in the two Liam Smith fights. But it reminds me slightly, I think we might have said it in our group discussion on Talk Sport, when Chris Eubank fought James DeGale in quite a high profile fight, we all knew that James didn't have a lot left. And it was like, that was what Chris looked like last night, a shell. That's what James DeGale looked like when he fought him. Very similar situation.
Being in the stadium and the narrative that both Eubank and Benn pushed together was about being the people's champion. I want a name from you, Gareth, specifically. Who did you feel was the people's champion from what the crowd reception throughout the fight was in that stadium? Who was the people's champion from what you felt?
No doubt Conor Benn, and I felt that since the first fight anyway. I've had people come up in the street and say, you know, Conor Benn won that first fight, didn't he? Conor Benn won that fight. He's a very popular young man. A star was born. He is a crossover star. I spoke to Eddie Hearn afterwards, and I agree with him. Conor Benn can have some massive fights. Now, again, he's just been paid extraordinarily well for two massive, resonant fights being watched with envy from the United States. He's made financially. It's remarkable. They're both two private schoolboys, isn't it? That were from fairly wealthy families, so who've obviously got the DNA from their fathers, and have got the warrior inside them, deep inside them. The big thing for Conor Benn now, as the people's champion, as a star. People love him. He really resonates with young people. He's got heart on his sleeve. He's very emotional. He's a very natural man. He doesn't hide things from you. He's been through an extraordinarily difficult time over the last 3 years. With the Clomiphene case and what he's had to do, and Eddie Hearn revealing that he literally invested all his money into that. The biggest thing for him now is, can he cut the weight to 147 to welterweight and go down and win a world title, win the WBC title potentially against Mario Barrios, who I think they should try and bring here and put him in a big stadium or the O2 Arena or somewhere that would sell, which I'm sure they'll try and do. And then just have the big fights. I'd love to see him against Ryan Garcia in a stadium here, against Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. He and Shaka Stevenson have sat in Ariel Helwani's studio and had a big row. I'd like to see him have all those fights, because that's what he should be doing. That's his level. If he's not world or elite level, he's prize fighter box office level. And that's what he should pursue right now, in my view, because that's what will earn him the bucks and get the big names. He will attract the big names to fight him.
What's the likelihood that Benn getting up to 160 and then now coming down to welterweight to try to capture world titles might have hampered his ability to capture world titles? And is the trade-off for the money that he's received in the Eubank Jr fights essentially worth it if he doesn't capture a world title?
Well, you're talking about sporting integrity here, and legacy, and earning capacity, and survival, and being a pro. He's done all the pro stuff right now, as a professional fighter and athlete. He's got the money in the bank. He's created a name for himself that wasn't there before with the mainstream. You know, he's a household name in the UK now. There's no question about that. If he wasn't before, but a crossover sporting household name. Um, it remains to be seen whether, having put that weight on, he hasn't fought at welterweight. Is it 3 years now? So it's a long time, and he's 29. He's not 25 or 23 anymore, extraordinarily. He's 29. He's 30 next. So it seems yesterday that he was a 23-year-old, doesn't it? It's extraordinary. So if he has the if he needs the legacy, then he might have to do that cut and go down and try and win a world title. But I just think he should be a box office name. I think that's his role. He may never be elite level, but he may be. That's what Dave Allen was questioning last week on TalkSport. Same as Chris Eubank. He said he was always fringe world level. Chris Eubank. I think he was a world level fighter myself. He had some fantastic world level fights. You know, he was brilliant when he fought Groves and struggled against Billy Joe, of course, but that was early in the career. And Billy Joe Saunders went on to world level. But I think the key for Conor Benn is prize fights. I think he'll get more if he can win a world title at welterweight. I don't think he wins a world title right now at 154 at super welter, because I think Jaron Boots Ennis, and I think Virgil Ortiz are another level again. Not saying I wouldn't want to see him in against them, but I can't see Eddie Hearn putting him in against either of those guys anytime in the next year and a half.
Gareth, we'll park the conversation there. There might be more to talk about this week if a couple of press conferences end up being arranged and some news falls our way. But that'll be a conversation for another day. I appreciate your time this week and today on this interview. Thanks for speaking to Seconds Out, sir.
Great to see you, Eamon, as always.
Pleasure.
Cheers.